Hello, YouTube. If you're like me, you're a big fan of The Walking Dead. However, this year, I felt that the season 6 finale and the season 7 premiere kind of let us down in a way. It's not for the reasons that most people would say. Most people I encountered, they talked to it and they felt that it let us down because they thought it was too graphic or that it was just too violent. I disagree with this. I'll get to that in a minute. This is my moment where I'd like to say that if you haven't seen the season finale or season premiere, huge spoilers. So if you're going to continue to watch it, I'm going to talk about a couple things that you're obviously going to be spoiled. And I'd like to say, why are you watching this if you're worried about that sort of thing? That being said, here we go. So talking to friends and family after watching season 7 premiere, the biggest complaint that I got from family members and friends was that they just didn't feel that the deaths that we saw had an impact on them that they expected. They thought that you would feel something more because of, watching Glenn die or watching Abraham die. These are characters we've grown to love, and yet somehow their demise didn't upset us in the way that we expected. We expected them to be, people were upset, but it was more because we just saw somebody's head get cratered and turned into soup, like, for lack of a better word. And the reason I think of this happened is because we were detached from it. This happened because the studio, in my opinion, made a mistake by leaving the cliffhanger the way that they did. What I mean by this is that imagine you're watching The Sixth Sense and somebody paused the movie and said, just so you know, yeah, one of the main characters in this show is dead. And then they proceeded to wait a week, then restarted the show a week later, the movie a week later. You would figure out within that week's time that Bruce Willis's character had died, and that's the big twist. And when the big twist happens, you're let down. Like, you're not. It doesn't have the emotional impact that you would expect, and that's because when writers write, whether it's a story or movie or TV or a book, when a writer writes something, there's a certain pathos to it. There's a certain way that writers intend to reveal things. They do it so that it has the maximum impact on the reader or the viewer. Now, this would have been the case with The Walking Dead, but because they ended on eeny, meeny, miny, mo, and you knew somebody was going to die, essentially it was a spoiler. And so, just like somebody who's Googled, the last page of a book, you knew where it was going to happen. So when I watched the season 7 premiere, I knew that one character was going to die for sure. And if that wasn't bad enough, halfway through the summer, the Walking Dead cast and showrunners started making tweets and Instagram posts to let us know that 2 people die. So then I think the idea was this to make people speculate, keep that speculation going. But because we knew that 2 people were going to die, if you paid attention to YouTube or paid attention to Instagram or Twitter, because you knew that 2 people were going to die, that impact, that shock was gone. Now, the simple fix for this, and like hindsight's 2020, but the simple fix for this would have just been to kill Abraham last season. What they could have done by killing Abraham last season is we would have still been in that moment. We wouldn't have had 4+ months to sit and speculate about who it is that died. The shock of it would have we would have felt that emotional impact then. Then I think that they should have continued and let it go up to the point where Daryl punches Negan in the face. So what they could have done, and still left us with a cliffhanger, still left us with speculation, would have been he brutally beats to death Abraham. We get that vindication because within that same episode, he'd come to that Zen place and talk to Sasha. He'd given Eugene his send off, like that he manned up, that he didn't, he respected him. And so when he died at the end of of season 6, we would have felt that emotional grip. You would have really felt that pull, that, oh my God. And and you would have had that moment where comic book fans would have been kind of slightly annoyed because they're like, no, this is where Glenn's supposed to die. But by doing this, they could have had that mislead even better. By killing off Abraham right away, giving us the summer to think about it, that would have built a better misdirect. What I mean by this is you take uh, Daryl getting up, punching Negan right in the face, just that he wasn't having it. And so then he drags Daryl out to the front, and then through editing, they could have implied that he was about to, I'm a man of my word, swing the bat as though he was going to swing it down at Daryl. But through editing, Ben actually, it was Glenn. And then so season 7 premiere comes, and all summer we didn't know if who. Well, we assumed that Daryl's the one that took the bat, but then season 7 opens almost identical to how it did, and it unfolds. And then through that unfolding, we see that no, it wasn't Daryl, it was Glenn. So then the second death also has an impact. We've lost 2 hopeful characters, we've lost 2 important characters to us, and that emotional gripping would be more impactful, and people would have been less drawn to how gory it was and more drawn to that impact of that loss. Now, that being said, it sounds like I'm shitting on this a lot, but the truth is that although I would have liked to have seen it filmed that way so that I felt more emotionally attached, what I think it did do good by giving us this brutal death, this meat soup of 2 characters we loved. By doing that, what they do is they do a really good job of making us hate Negan, of giving us this sense of hopelessness, this sense that yes, for the first time, these characters that we thought were untouchable are not untouchable anymore. They are characters who can now be in mortal peril. Too long after seasons go on for several seasons, you begin to feel like there's no stakes. The stakes aren't real, that the main characters are untouchable, and that somehow they'll push through. And you could tell Rick even thinks somehow they're going to push through this. And we know that, yes, they will overcome it. But what we don't know now is that through this episode, they've really established that the people we love could die. All of them. We could end up with brand new characters. Now, it's very unlikely that Rick will ever die because, I mean, the show is shot through from his perspective. So if Rick ever died, that would be kind of that would be pointless. Like it would be kind of a weird moment, especially since that I'm sure that the overall arc is to turn this to be a slow descent into turning Rick into a Negan-like character where he becomes the villain because of everything he's gone through. That's another video altogether. Anyways, what did you think? Did you think that the violence was excessive? Did you think that maybe clever editing could have made the show more dramatic and more emotional? Let me know in the comments below.